Hello, everyone. My name is Leo Ling, CEO of ITOS.io. I'm the moderator for today's conversation about how carbon neutrality has to be an ecosystem game. In the coming time, you will learn from our guests here on how they are building their strategy for carbon neutrality and sustainability. So whether you are the blockchain builder or a leader in a blockchain company or enterprise for blockchain adoption, please stay with us because you will learn from what they learned from the past and of course, what they see in the future. So sitting on the panel today, we have Vincent Wang and Zi Ying. So I will let you introduce yourself. So Vincent, maybe you can start firstly.
Hi, I'm Vince. My name is Vincent Wang, and I'm the head of Wanxiang blockchain company, and I've been in this blockchain game since 2016. Very much look forward to exchanging ideas and get initiatives started in the marriage, in this holy marriage of renewable causes and blockchain technology.
Thanks, Vincent. Zi, would you please introduce yourself?
Yeah, thank you, Leo. My name is Zi Ying. You can call me Z. My current role is I'm a 5G and IoT transformation lead for NCS. But personally, I'm always calling myself architecture technologist. So I'm very interested with anything that is emerging, right? Including Web3, blockchain. So all these are my kind of pet topics that I've been very, very interested in dealing with all these Web3 upcoming technologies. So in my current role, I do talk to many different enterprise on their strategy when it comes to sustainability and their net carbon zero kind of strategies, right? So today I will be very happy to be here to share some of my views and also exchange views with Vincent and also Liu. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Zi. Let's start with this. All the company here, the Wanxiang blockchain and NCS, both of you have the carbon neutrality strategy in the face. So when it comes to carbon neutrality, the blockchain will be always considered as a kind of important digital technology. So can you share with us from your experience, how can blockchain have a net positive impact? So let's start from the Vincent.
Okay. We look at carbon, how do we get ready for a regenerative innovation, a generation of regenerative innovation, no pun intended, based on carbon and blockchain technology. We see currently, we see three different categories of opportunities. One is enterprise level carbon emission measure and carbon, and voluntary emission reduction planning. So this is number one, so on the infrastructure side. Number two is on the community side. How do we organize the C, the B, and the G's together to form an ecosystem where carbon reduction, the carbon emission reduction is a major goal, it's a shared goal across the board, across industries, across society. And the third category of opportunities that we see is assetizing carbon infrastructure and renewable energy sources. Now, I'll make an analogy. The first one, the IoT infrastructure, for example, you make sure you use IoT technology married to blockchain to ensure that the carbon emission is accurately measured, set against a benchmark to calculate CCER. We compare that to the seed. The seed needs to be in the ground, right? And then you need to loosen the soil to give the seed a chance. Loosen the soil is the community work. You create mind share, you modify behavior, you create incentives and governance, right? And the third one is then you need to water this precious seed. The watering is financial resources. How do you link financial resources to these carbon initiatives. And we have been, Wanxiang Blockchain Company has been mobilizing our ecosystem, including leading IoT blockchain company like Leo's own boats. And we are also working with our significant partners under Wanxiang Holdings in the financial sector to take care of the water. So we have the seed, the water. Now we are using, we're deploying means like metaverse or DAO, and based on Web3 infrastructure to build a community, to create the incentive to do mechanism design to make sure that this is not only launched, all these carbon initiatives are not only successfully launched, but more importantly, scaled to form business models, sustainable business model for sustainable energy and for a sustainable world.
Oh, thanks, Vincent, for your sharing and very valuable insight. So Zi, since your role is on the 5G IoT in the telecom industry, can you share with us on how the 5G and IoT product blockchain might play a role in the accelerating our path to the carbon net zero?
Yeah, first of all, I really liked the analogy that Vincent had come up with. I thought that was brilliant. I always thought of that, the journey towards net carbon zero it has to be an ecosystem game. And in my own analogy, I always kind of akin it to be like a forest. To be like a forest, you cannot. It's almost like in a forest. You have sunlight, you have soil, you have seeds, but you have also many different types of plants, right? And in order for this ecosystem to flourish, like a forest to flourish, you need all the fauna and flora, and then every single living organism needs to play a part. The same thing, right? For telco industry, we are just one such industry in many, many different types of industry verticals. Everybody needs to play a part in carbon neutrality in our fight towards carbon net zero. So a few fun facts, right? I think I was reading up about telco. So I read about telco is one of the few industry that had first committed to their net carbon zero pledge. It's one of the first few industries. And then globally, a telco industry, we contributed about 2 to 3% of total energy consumption globally. So which is not that big, but is also not that small. But come to think about it, right? Telco provides what? Telco provides connectivity. Telco also provides all these data center infrastructure. And as all of us know, data consumption is going to grow exponentially, right? As such, energy consumption from the telco industry is only set to grow also exponentially. So therefore, it is imperative for the telcos to really work together to reduce their energy consumption and also to contribute as a global citizens towards net carbon zero. So that is really the part of telco. Lately, the entire telco industry is abuzz with 5G. So let me talk a few things about 5G. 5G is really the fifth generations of the telco cellular connectivity, right? We had 3G, 4G, and then now 5G. In terms of the energy consumptions of 5G is actually consume about 2 to 3 times more energy compared to 4G. However, in terms of energy efficiency is actually 20 to 30 times more efficient than 4G. And this is very, very important as previously stated, right? As the data consumption, the data traffic grows, we need something much more energy efficient. So this is just like, the fridge in my house or in your house, or even the aircon. We need to make it more energy efficient. The same thing is true for this 5G infrastructure. Only when it's more energy efficient, then we can help to reduce the energy consumptions and make it more carbon neutral, right? Contribute towards the carbon neutral goal. That is one direct impact that 5G can contribute just by it being more energy efficient. The secondary impact of 5G really comes in 5G is an enabler. So 5G is going to enable things like, different types of technologies, such as self-driving car, self-optimization traffic, such as smart manufacturing. And every single one of these will then indirectly contribute to lower energy consumption as well as higher energy efficiency, right? Think about if we have a self-organizing traffic, self-organizing or self-driving cars, this will then also reduce traffic congestion, for example. Like in many cities such as Bangkok or Jakarta, right? Traffic congestion is a big issue. And we all know that traffic congestion will also contribute to carbon emission, right, from all these idling vehicles. So when we have this self-organizing traffic management platform enabled by 5G, we can then look forward to a lower energy consumption from this smart city. So I only want to quote you that example. So hopefully this makes sense, right? Thank you, Leo.
Thanks, Zhu. Thanks for your sharing. So Wanxiang, let's dive a little bit deeper here. So you have a rich history on the enterprise and the government space. So are you seeing more enterprise customer and the governments right now exploring the blockchain as a benefit to their ESG strategy compared to say years ago? And which kind of use case and application you want to share with us based on what you are hearing from and working with the enterprise customer and the governments recently?
Sure. I personally, first of all, let me begin by saying that I'm personally not a big fan of this acronym ESG. A good acronym, a good concept should should automatically organize people's imagination and then their resources in a focused direction. Now, ESG does not do that very well. Sure, we all care about environment. Sure, we all care about, governance is important. Positive social changes are important. But what the acronym does not suggest is how we get there. So I try to, I think we're ready for a ESG 2.0 and just to want to weave the narrative into a tighter one, right? I'll go back to my metaphor: the seed, the loosened soil, and the watering. Now, on the seed side, enterprise carbon emission preparedness is something that we take very close to heart. Wanxiang has, since late last year, we have introduced Wanxiang's VINA Cube. This is Wanxiang's carbon emission cube. When we say cube, we mean it's a three-dimensional systems of solutions that serve the enterprise need on different level. We can serve on the first level. We serve on the highest level, the enterprise looking at carbon emission from the asset side, from the investment side, and from the management side. So how do we weigh the emission reduction and investment into more positive carbon capturing asset? What is a corporate strategy? So on this level of the 3D cube, we focus on providing strategic consulting. We provide methodologies. we provide quantifiable models. The second dimension is on the operational level, on the factory level. This is where we optimize, we provide optimizing solutions based on IoT deployment in the manufacturing line, based on incorporation of carbon reduction incentives into the line operations. And so we provide the tools for a factory to be more carbon efficient and to be overall a viable player to serve the first dimension, that is the corporate strategy. And the third dimension is the product dimension. This is a very interesting dimension. This is not just about the manufacturing measurement of, carbon emission. It actually, it tracks the footprint of an individual product. Now, those of us who have been long in the electronics industry, like Leo and myself, we know that we track the supply chain. We track BOM cost. We look at the we have after we sell something, before at the point of sale we have CRM. On the after the sale we have a product lifecycle management. Now, what carbon offers to this product level management is not just a boundary condition in which we view the product, but also a way to connect to the customers in a long tail fashion. The customers, for example, if someone order a fridge from Haier, and that fridge will have a long profile, during its lifetime, will have a profile of carbon emission and and carbon emission optimization, thanks to smart electronics technology brought to the market by Haier and many other OEMs. So to Haier, this is not just a challenge to do this product level carbon accounting, but more importantly, it's an opportunity to reach out to the customer throughout and interact with the customer to serve their own carbon emission target. So you have an anchor, you have a digital anchor into post-sales, into the customer's life. And that will be, I think, will be proven very critical and very productive to the continual success of an OEM. So I give you an example of product level solutions that we introduce in this VINA Cube, what that can do. So these three dimensions, these are our answer to the enterprise level or to the seed level. We use IoT plus blockchain, both as a way of measuring carbon emission in a reliable way, reliable fashion, but also as a way of using IoT technology to provide a long tail engagement strategy with our customers. Now, then let's look at the soil level. How do we loosen the soil? How do we make the carbon emission reduction relevant to all members, different layers of our society and our economy? Now, I think that's where I would echo Zi's analogy of the forest, right? So environmentally friendly activists back in the 1980s and 90s were called tree huggers. And so I think with the rise of renewable energy, it's completely conceivable to have solar panel huggers or even turbine huggers. And we can make friends with these renewable sources. We can, on the individual level, in a truly distributed fashion, we can do micro investment into renewable infrastructure that we believe in. And we can do crowdfunding to improve the overall carbon footprint of our community. So this way, it not only brings resources and create initiatives to let everybody, all members of society, feel engaged. It also introduced accountability. It's kind of introduced a sort of softer, rewarding accountability to how carbon incentive is provided. And right now we see a lot of incentives as kind of negative incentives. If you do not have an optimized carbon emission structure, you'll be penalized one way or another. But I think down the road, it will be more reward than penalty. Then on the watering level, right, the resources need to be brought in. So this is where we believe that a fundamental value, of a blockchain will come in play in the carbon economy. So a common meme on the social network is that blockchain is great, but there's no killer app. That is untrue. There have been, blockchain has proven a number of killer apps. One of the leading killer apps for blockchain is assetizing on the traditionally unassetizable product or assets, right? We have talked a lot in the past about our agricultural, our biological asset, the cow. You can use IoT technology in combination with blockchain to create a digital twin to manage a living cattle as a investable asset. But that's only the beginning. Solar panel, for example, solar farm. How do you raise funds on a solar farm? And how do you divide them up into manageable modules for different investors to participate in? And how do you introduce accountability for the operation of these solar farms? Solar farms, wind, hydraulic energy production, all these have something in common. What's that something in common? They tend to be in more remote areas. And being in remote areas, a challenge that many investors will feel is that we are not sure how good the regional, governance structure in these remote areas can be. Now, this is where a digital twin comes in. This is where blockchain comes in. Blockchain can provide a total transparency into these renewable assets and make them trustworthy, make them reliable. So this way, it lowers the risk threshold of investors and financial institutions. So you get a water in. The watering will start. Okay. So now this is I introduced this a pretty analogy, but then what else? What else do we need? Well, just like in agriculture, we need the climate. We need regulations. We need financial policies, and we need the financial market and the government agencies to come in and to improve the climate, which is something that I believe all across the world we're seeing. And so then this life cycle of a productive forest will begin and will be sustained.
Yeah, thank you, Vincent, for these those very valuable the use case application example from the different level. So I want to go back to what we mentioned in the beginning about the ecosystem and the collaboration. So all of those carbon neutrality strategy need to work in the collaboration with the large institutions, also with the individual action and the company right. So Zi, in your opinion, how the ecosystem collaboration is essential in contributing to net carbon zero? Can you quote a few industry examples for us?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Liu. Today we keep talking about forests. It's all about ecosystem, right? So net carbon zero is no small feat. It's really no small feat. It's almost like solving world hunger problem. Only that is like 10 times harder. And also it's about the survival of humankind. Has a lot of implications, right? So the stake is super high. So I think in order to achieve net carbon zero, government needs to cooperate with each other, enterprise needs to cooperate with each other, but not just the big enterprise, but every single individual as well, right? Every single citizen needs to contribute. As such, it involves mindset change. It also involves behavioral change. It's really not easy. As such, I think we have to, how do you eat an elephant alive? You have to do it bits by bits, right? Industry per industry. So let me quote a few industry examples. Maybe we'll use the electric vehicles, right? The EV industry. So look, we have been using fuel car, petrol car, diesel car for the last 100 years. So how do you then introduce the concept of using electric vehicle? Come to think of it, you no longer go to the petrol station or the gas station. You have to, totally change the infrastructure. And therefore, all these EV charging stations, they will not miraculously, just appear overnight. This is where we require the government to provide incentive. Like in Vincent's analogy, is the water. You need incentive for industry to change behavior. You also need incentive for citizens to change behavior in the form of tax incentive. So, for example, I was reading about Norway. In Norway, I think in a span of 3-4 years, they managed to convince a vast majority of their citizens, whoever is buying new car, a vast majority of them are actually changing to electric vehicles. Why? Because all of them get a pretty good tax incentive, or a lower kind of a lower road tax, for example. And with this kind of incentive, it drives behavioral changes. And those are just temporarily measured, right? Because, once you, there's this thing that if you keep doing one thing for consecutively for the next 30 days, it becomes a habit. So I always see that, government regulations and tax incentive, any form of incentive is just temporarily, but it plays a super important role to kick, people into adopting a new behavior, a good behavior that we want people to behave, right? So back to the EV industry, right? So once you have settled the EV infra, you incentivize people to buy EV electric vehicle. What's next, right? The next is you also need to upgrade the hardware of the car itself. So every car will become a connected car. It's almost like your handphone. It's just that on wheels, right? Your handphone on wheels. And this is where I would like to bring an example whereby, the earlier example, how do you enable, CV2X, right? Cellular to vehicle kind of communications to enable a hyper-connected, smart traffic management systems in the future. And this is where it will bring on these secondary benefits of lower carbon emission because you get lesser traffic congestions, for example, right? Maybe another industry example I want to bring up is in the energy productions, right? Right at the root of the problem today, right? Because today, most of the energy being produced are still coming from coal, coming from, non-renewable sources. So in this regard, the same thing. Government has to come up with regulations. For example, all the data center, the new data center needs to meet a very high standard of PUE index. They all needs to be very much energy efficient. But it is very hard. For example, I come from Singapore. It is very, very hard for a data center operator in Singapore, right, to meet a PUE below 1.3 or 1.25. Compare to a data center operators in the Nordic country, right? Somewhere up above on the hemisphere or on the northern hemisphere because of the climate, right? Because in Singapore is very, very hot climate. It's very hard for us to keep it energy efficient to run the data center. So what do we do, right? So potentially nations could collaborate with each other. So for smaller countries, whereby they do not have, smaller countries that do not have natural resources, enough natural resources to do something like, to generate enough renewable energy sources, they could collaborate with other countries in importing these renewable energy sources, right? And I think this is a cheaper way for them to contribute. And also, this one will also encourage, the emergence of new technology, such as, shipping hydrogen, right, from one place to another. And new technology like this will then enable equal distributions of renewable energy to be consumed by, different countries, different enterprise all over the world. So this is something that we are looking forward to.
Thank you. Those very interesting example about the ecosystem and the different industries collaboration. So our previous conversation, we talked a lot about the technology and the product related with the carbon neutrality and the sustainability. But we also need to talk about the carbon economy, the financial, the incentive, the Zi and Vincent mentioned already. So I want to ask the Vincent, can you give us some comment on the ReFi, the regenerative finance, which is a quite hot topic recently? Can you give us some your feeling and your comment?
Okay, yeah, I think regenerative finance, like many such terms, has the greatest value is help people focus their attention on what blockchain and financial resources can be brought together, both as a technology means and as a source of resources to help our Earth to regenerate. And basically, I think I covered several different aspects of what we usually associate with ReFi. For example, how do we assetize the significant build out of renewable energy infrastructure, and how do we do the accounting? So you cannot. It doesn't make sense to look at a solar farm, a massive solar farm, the same way you look at, say, a bridge or a canal, right? There got to be new ways to look at it. There got to these new ways to look at this infrastructure investment are not only spatial but also temporal. And how do we organize these resources? And how do we, for example, many different banks may have a shared interest in this infrastructure, but these interests, in the case of what's new about regenerative finance, is that the interest of these financial institutions that they take in these renewable infrastructure projects are not only fiscal, but also social. And so this is, by the way, why the whole ESG acronym was created, to combine the governance, social impact, and the environmental initiatives together. Now, so I think increasingly with the climate change, the damage, the threat of climate change becoming every year, more obvious, more undeniable. Increasingly, we'll see these large financial institutions are facing pressure not only by way of return on investment, but also by way of the social and environmental impact of their policies. So I think I don't have a crystal ball. I don't know how that will unroll on a massive scale down the road, but I suspect something like a community, like an alliance of investors or financial institutions that can be brought together to pool the resources to do a more holistic investment all over the world. Not only, they don't look at one solar farm or one wind farm at a time. They can, with the alliance, with the large resources at the alliance's disposal, there will be business models built upon a larger infrastructure portfolio, holistically managed and holistically accounted for. And this is something that we have gotten, Wanxiang Blockchain Company has got a head start a few years ago when we began to do this kind of industrial alliance based on a kind of a point measurement system that calculate the contribution of each player into the success of this alliance. And I think this will happen almost certainly down the road. I look forward to seeing the ingenuity that goes into designing such vehicles. I want to clarify something. This is not, well, I'm not talking about JV here when I say alliance, right? The blockchain offers a brand new way to do this kind of thing that traditional JV, joint venture between different entities cannot do. Joint venture, your contribution is basically measured by the percentage of the capital that you put up. But that is not the real picture. That's a distorted view of the contribution, because the greater contribution is once the JV is in operation. What new business is each partner bringing into the JV for it to do? What volume of values that they drive within this alliance. So very commonly, the way JV fails is that people only put up the capital, and then they don't really care. They want other people to make more contribution in the real operation of that JV. They just put up the capital and that's it, because the corporate governance structure usually has a sort of mechanism and flow to say that, okay, here's the money. But the the operational management and the precise operational contribution is that's a more meaningful one. But without blockchain, it cannot be measured accurately. But with blockchain, with a good incentive mechanism design and a good governance structure, this is completely doable. So this is something that I think will revolutionize the way corporations work with one another. So two keywords: one is holistic rather than individual project. Two is a brand new alliance infrastructure with a viable incentive model.
Thanks to this valuable insight from Vincent. So yeah, I have the last question for both of you. We have some of the blockchain builders who are listening right now. So maybe they want to get into this space and build for the carbon neutrality project for the sustainability. So do you have any advice for them? Because we have the limited time, so everyone has the 1 or 2 sentences. Yeah, maybe Z, you first.
Yeah, no, I would encourage any Web3 developers to always explore the many different initiatives, such as the one that brought up by Vincent. Those sounds very awesome to me, right? I would love to learn how to participate. If I'm a developer myself, really want to know, as an individual Web3 developer, how you might be able to participate in this larger ecosystem towards doing good, towards sustainability, towards net carbon zero projects. So yeah, that's my 1 sentence for you.
Okay, my 1 sentence is follow 5G development. All these people who want to do, especially the young people who are passionate about Web3 and DAO, they should look to 5G, especially 5G messaging as the portal of their choice. If 5G is successful, then there are a number of very important organizing tools that will establish a contributor's credits and credentials through 5G messaging. To those of you who are familiar with 5G technology, 5G messaging is capable of running browser and app-like interfaces within that messaging window. I think that, and it can be tied to a DID. So that is basically all the tools you need, all the infrastructure you need to make it successful. So here I use, well, this is longer than one sentence, but I want to do an advertisement for my friend Z there in 5G innovation. Please support Z, and you'll be supporting the cause.
Great. It's a 5G plus the Web3. Wonderful. So thank you, Wanxiang and Z. We believe it is important to highlight organizations such as yourself that are guiding the blockchain to the industry for achieving carbon neutrality strategy. Thank you so much for your time, and look forward to connecting more online audience. Thank you.
Thank you, Leo. Thank you, Z.
Thank you, everyone.